I'm the scat man. I'm the scat man.
He's ready to go on the Friday. Welcome to NHL Puck Props presented by Sports Interaction with 14-year NHL vet Carlo Colaiacovo, who got shaded on. Andy Francis dug deep and found
For
that.
real.
Last time you've seen that.
I honestly haven't seen that clip because that clip was a scarring moment for me because I got sent down after that.
When you said that, I'm like, oh.
But at least now there's a better understanding as to what happened on that play. I mean, obviously Travis Green has to not turn the puck over there, and I probably shouldn't be as aggressive with my route with a minute and a half left in the game. And Eddie Balfour's got to make that save, man. Like, come on.
Yeah, look at the blame list. Travis Green, Eddie Balfour.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, happy Friday, pal. Happy Friday to the pumpers there in the chat. The pumpers. Let's go.
Brewski.
Sharks plus 1.5. What a little backdoor cover that was. Nice to say that in hockey sometimes. Yeah. Hit that like button, you freeloaders. Absolutely. I'll tell you now and I'll tell you again. Do it. We need that watch to like ratio. Up, up, up. That's what's going to pay the bills around here.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. Speaking of paying the bills.
Hey, you speak about paying the bills? Pay the bill for us so we can pay the bills for you guys. Like, come on. Right?
How the hell do we get a goal score correction? I get assists, but how do you mess up who lights the lamp? What did I miss, Cheeseburger Eddie? What goal? Which goal? The Dylan Cousins one? The Dylan Cousins got wiped off. Palmieri's goal, one of the Palmieri ones got wiped off. The Granlund point at the end, absolute. Like, I was looking at that, you got it, and I thought I had the whole line there. Stacks were nice. Straights were solid. Yeah, the stacks were stacking early. I was so scared to stack 3 lines on that Dallas game, but first goal, Duchesne, Marchment, Seguin plus 500, bang.
Yes, love it.
Friday, love early goals here in the early slate Friday, so let's get to it. Let me know your best plays there in the chat. Let me know what you're doing on a Friday. Let me know your plans. It's Friday. It's getting cold. It's getting dreary.
Mm-hmm.
It's time. Can't all have feasts like Carlo going out there eating moose knuckle or whatever you were eating.
The beast feast was last night, buddy.
Oh God, yeah. Some of the words you said I didn't even know existed with big game food. Washington, Colorado. Hey, guess what? Connor McMichael's points hasn't adjusted.
Yes.
Yeah, we're back on,
baby.
Yeah. There, producer Mick saying, "Pump up the likes, pumpers." There you go. Connor McMichael
Team
for a point.
McMichael is what we are,
and he never makes you sweat. He did it again on the first goal.
Yeah, gets it early.
And he gets a game in Colorado that I'm also on the over 6.5, minus 110 at Sports Interaction. We're seeing this go up to like minus 125 as it should. You're getting 2 of the best offenses. You're getting a Colorado team who is 9-1-1 to the over at home, averaging 7.82 total goals per game at altitude. Washington, the number 2 offense in hockey, 4.13 goals per game. Tied for second, actually, just behind Winnipeg. And Connor McMichael, no adjustment so far. Points in 12 of his 15 games. This is 12-3 to the over. Like, it's funny, the content. You're like, hey, here we are again. But, like, we say it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What's up, Will.i.am?
And if it's cheap, keep hitting it.
100%. The Wilson one hasn't really hit much with it, but this is a spot where I'm happy to take. Washington up at Colorado. We saw what Washington was earlier in this week. Making the trip up to altitude. I know we talk about it, but like some people are new here. Tell me the differences because I don't think it's really priced in. We talk about it in Coors Field in baseball. A road trip to Colorado to go in and out, maybe within less than 48 hours. What's that like for a player?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to deal with. Obviously, there's an adjustment that you have to get your body used to. Because there's a couple things. It's not just the altitude, but it's a time change, right? So you add those two factors in a short time period, it makes your body feel less than normal than you would expect it to feel. So, it's funny you say, I don't know if the books have adjusted to it like it does at Coors Field. I don't think we've ever seen a total less than 6 in games played in Colorado, because there is that sort of that feature that teams have to deal with when it comes to not just the time change. I mean, we're talking an Eastern team going to Mountain Time, and we're also talking about having to feel a lot different because of the altitude that you're breathing in, the thin air, and how quickly or how different your breathing feels. So it's an adjustment. It absolutely is. It's not a myth.
It's the only team, when I'm trying to look at their stats when they're at home, it's the only team I go and look at the splits, their home and away splits. Yeah. Yes, some other teams play better at home, but that's usually priced in. But I don't think everything's priced in entirely into what you expect and go. I mean, 9-1-1 to the over when the total's been 6.5, basically all year, heavily juiced. It's a good run. So like the overs in Colorado, like McMichael points,
and both teams can score too, right?
Both of them are scoring. If you want to get crazy, I think the stack of Arturi Lehkonen for a point, Rantanen for 2 points, and McKinnon for 2 points is plus 500.
Wow.
But it hit again last game, and they don't have secondary scoring, Carlo.
Yeah.
It's insane the percentage of the point share that top line has. And I'm not even seeing Casey Middlestat touch the score sheet anymore. It's just the big boys over there doing the heavy lifting for that Colorado offense. Pittsburgh, Columbus. This one is such a funny one. I wanted to bet Pittsburgh minus 130 on the money line. Why, Carlo? Because Columbus, 6-game losing streak, but also coming back from Washington, San Jose, LA, Anaheim, Seattle.
Woo, that's a long one.
But do you trust Pittsburgh? So this is the conundrum here.
Yeah.
You got Pittsburgh, who we kind of dragged through the mud, and I really don't think that overtime loss really showed much of a pushback for the team that is.
Right.
But Columbus, on the other hand, has dropped 6 straight and coming back from one of the hardest West Coast road trips. Which levy breaks here in terms of being a bad team like Pittsburgh or the West Coast road trip myth?
It's a really good question, and I don't know if I have the right answer for it other than just looking at the head-to-head matchups between these two teams over their last 10 games, and it's heavily one-sided to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has an 8-2 win-loss record versus Columbus, including 3 of their last 4. I would side on Pittsburgh on this one because I believe there's more pressure on their end to sort of get things right, where in Columbus, there's a built-in excuse, right? Where it's like, okay, we just got off a long road trip. We're not expected to be very good this year. We can just go out and just try to put together a good effort, where the pressure in Pittsburgh is to win, right? So, and I don't know if that pressure is a good thing or a bad thing, because pressure might not always be a good thing to play with, because, you're worried about making a mistake. And usually when you're worried about making a mistake, those mistakes end up in the back of your net, which is somewhat of what's been happening a lot of in Pittsburgh. But if I had to side with the side on this game, I'd probably go Pittsburgh just because of the Columbus factor of returning home off the long road trip.
Minus 130 is too much. Minus 130 is too much for a team I can't trust on the road. I can't trust them, but I can trust this over. Give me that sweet, sweet over. Give me some sloppy two-way scoring. Could be Pittsburgh up early, Columbus in comeback mode, and Pittsburgh's just not good defensively holding leads all year. Going to get that minus 120. And ya boy, former number 3 pick, Adam Fantilli, playing on that second line. Guess where he is now? He's on PP1 after dropping 6 straight games, mixing some things up, getting the Rooks over into that top line. So Adam Fantilli for a point at plus 105. You know him very well, correct?
Yes, very well.
Where do you see his progression right now in the NHL? Lots of guys come in, and we've seen like some huge jumps in what people actually look like. But then for the most part, there's guys like Fantilli who it takes a long time to play hockey with grown men and fit in and be strong on the puck. Do you see a big jump coming in his game maybe this year or in the next season and a half?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do. I thought that, he was a player that excelled very well playing the college game and being a Hobie Baker finalist in doing so. Last year through 49 games, I thought he had a really productive season for a first-year player, 29 points in 49 games, and missed the rest of the bulk of that season because of a skate laceration to his calf. And so far this year, pretty decent start, 7 points in 15 games. But, you got to understand in Columbus, it was a very emotional start for a lot of these guys, right? With the whole Goudreau incident and obviously a new coach coming in as well, too. So I think there's a little bit of an adjustment and a grace period here for this group. And I think, I didn't get a chance to see who exactly his line mates are, but
Cole Sillinger and Igor Chinnikov.
Well, Chinnikov's one of their top point producers.
Chinnikov's the stack. That stack is, hold on, what do I got here? That stack is plus 276.
With Monahan?
No, with Fantilli and Chinnikov, who are also PP1.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, there you go. I think for Columbus, the biggest issue this year is are they going to be talented enough to keep up with, the scoring of the rest of the teams that they're playing? And so far, early on this season, I think they've had a lot of good effort games. But I think you'll see a lot more of that. But for Fantilli, for sure, just based on opportunity and ice time, he's going to be in those favorable positions to increase his production from last year.
So not a lot of viewers probably know this, but over his last 4 games compared to his first 11 games, his time on ice is up over 2.25 minutes. When you see that big of a jump, what does that tell you for a player in the trust that he has with his coaches?
For Fantilli?
Yeah, almost 2.5 minutes is a pretty massive jump in terms of opportunity, no?
Well, it is, but it's also a coach understanding which players he's got to try to get the most out of, right? And Fantilli's a player they probably look at and say, okay, this is a guy we want to build around. This is a guy that we need to put in these roles to see if he can excel at them so that we can trust him to be that guy for many years to come. This is part of the development, and this is part of the understanding of the coach, understanding which players he looks at as being their best players and which players he looks at being the guys to lead them forward. And Fantilli is definitely one of them. So, Monahan's been a nice addition. Marchenko, alongside Monahan. I would say between those 4 guys that we just talked about, Chinnikov, Fantilli, Monahan, Marchenko, those are the guys that they want to build the pieces around and use those 2 guys as pairings to see who can slot in and have success on the wing alongside those guys.
All right, time for Uncle Carlo story time.
Oh.
Tell me a spot, speaking of ice time, where you in your playing career marched down that hallway, kicked open the coach's door, 1 foot off the hinges, slammed your hand on the desk and said, "Give me more ice time."
Which coach? Oh, yeah. I've said it many times. So many times. I'll go back to
Is that a normal thing? Seems aggressive.
I think now it is because players have more power and more say based on where your position stands within the team. Back then, you had to sort of walk a fine line. You couldn't do it as a young player. You couldn't do it as like a middle veteran guy. Clearly, as a heavily veteran guy, you could do it. But back in the day when I played too, depending on whose feathers you ruffled, you face the consequence of either not playing or being demoted. And that's certainly a line you want to be very careful at crossing. But, sometimes you just got to speak your mind, because I felt like in my career, like I prided myself in being a great teammate and a nice person, not really getting involved in too much controversy. I was always under the belief that, if nothing is, I'm trying to think of the right phrase. Oh God, what's the right word I'm looking for right now?
Love to help you.
Yeah. So basically, like, if nothing is said to you, then that means that there's nothing wrong.
Gotcha.
Right? So I was always under that belief, but sometimes you need to say something because coaches can take advantage of you being the quiet guy and not saying anything because they know you won't come say anything. So finally I had enough at one point. And I marched into the no news is good news. Yes. There you go. That's what I wanted to say. So I was in St. Louis, and for some reason my ice time was, being taken away game after game. I wasn't being given the same responsibilities. I could never understand why, because we were winning. And, I felt like when I was on the ice, I was, producing and doing the things that I needed to do. So I went up to the coach and I basically said,
"Who's the coach?"
Davis Payne was the coach.
And I said, Davis Payne.
When I was in St. Louis, and I asked, I said, what do I got to do to play more? Why am I not playing, the way I should be playing? More power play, more, 5-on-5 time, more clutch situation times. And he basically said, show me and I'll show you. And I'm trying to process that. Like, what does that mean? So I'm like, okay, you want me to show you? I'll go show you. We're in Vancouver. First shift of the game, I joined the rush wide ice, and I tried to break into the zone, and Keith Ballard clips me, sort of submarines me, right? Or he goes low. I get up and my wires cross, drop my gloves, beat the crap out of him. So I go into the box, and if you could actually hear the Blues commentator saying, "Oh my God, what got into Colaiacovo tonight? He seems like he's fired up." And the players on the bench, you could see the reaction. They're all up. They're banging the boards. They're looking at each other like, where did that come from? So I went to the bench, and the coach patted me on the back, and he's like, great job. And I'm thinking to myself, you told me to show you, so I did. Now play me more. And right after that, my situation changed for the foreseeable future for a little bit until he decided that, he wanted to go back to his own ways. But sometimes that's what you got to do. You got to step up and speak your mind and stand up for yourself and, go to have a big boy conversation with your coach.
Sometimes you gotta lay the wood to Keith Lumber, bud. Who was it? Keith what?
Keith Ballard, yeah.
Sorry, Keith Ballard. Gotta lay the wood to Ballard. Attaboy. Way to stick up for yourself, my friend. Speaking of sticking up for yourself, back on the bets. Vegas, team total over 3.5. Utah. That game versus Carolina should have been 100-1 Carolina. You said you were on Carolina that game, right?
I was, yeah.
That might be one of the most lopsided, non-expected outcomes that exist. Money Puck had it as a 98% probable win for Carolina. They had 8 expected goals. They had 50 shots. It was 1-1 going to the third, and then things got loose. Vegas, still number 4 in expected goals, number 2 for goals. Great offense. Mark Stone could come back, not sure. They've shuffled some things up. They haven't hit this number in 3 straight, despite going 8-12 to begin the season on this. But they've scored 3 goals in back-to-back games. They haven't got that empty netter. Utah, bottom 10 PK versus Vegas's top 3rd power play. Great matchup here. Great price. Vegas finds its way. Like, holding on from Utah in that situation where you're literally just hanging on by a thread.
Yeah.
Back-to-back games, how much can you expect to get that from your goaltending in back-to-back games?
It's a tough ask. It's definitely a tough ask because, you don't want to rely on your goaltender having to have those type of nights for you to win every night. But every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to have your goaltender steal you a game, which is clearly what we could say happened the other night in Utah. But I look at this more of a
Utah's still not a good team.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm more focused on Vegas here because I know they're a good team, and they're probably going to be excited to play their first game in Utah. And hard to imagine that Ingram, whoever plays in net for Utah, can follow up that same performance. I mean, 49 shots on net, making 48 saves. That's pretty incredible. That's a well-earned night of work.
For sure. Do you think that's tiring as a team, like chasing that play as a goaltender, taking 50 shots?
Yeah. Well, it depends on what those shots are, right? Are those shots like stuff you can see where you're not really contested? Are they second and third rebound chances? Are they, shots that you feel like the ice is tilted in your own end all night and you got to go back and forth making save to save. Like anytime you look at a goaltender's performance, you look at, okay, well, what was the degree of difficulty on most of the saves that he had to make? Because you could have a quiet night making 30 saves, or you could have, a really, loud night making those 30 saves that you're making 4 or 5 highlight reels ones because you got to get over and stop these wide open nets and stuff like that. So I didn't get a chance to really, investigate that. I just saw the number at the end of the night and the saves that he made. But I've always said that I think the way goalies practice are sometimes harder than they have to work in games because of all the drills they have to do before practice and even after practice and even during the practice. But it's that type of the conditioning that helps them be ready for these type of performance. And I've never played the position, but I bet if you ask any goalie, they'd probably feel comfortable saying that they actually feel better in the net when they see more shots and more pucks.
Like you have a pretty good association with good goaltending. I mean, your twin brother was a junior goaltender, was he not?
Yeah, my brother loved when he got to see a lot of shots because he felt like he was in the game, right?
Carolina, 16 shots on the power play on Wednesday versus Utah. So that's a busy beekeeper. So in that spot, we saw Vegas has already played Utah at home, 4-3 overtime win, outshot them heavily, only had one power play. Carolina drew 6 penalties Wednesday, so maybe a little more Vegas action with the man advantage. Vegas already put 4 of them a few weeks ago. 3 in regulation, 1 in overtime. Needed that. Maybe Mark Stone gets back. If he does, that line's going to move a bit. Look for Dorofeyev maybe to jump up to the top line with Eichel. That's how they finished the game last time, so there might be something within that, some line juggling. Maybe not so much, though, after the win. But we'll leave it at that. That's where we are Friday. More stacks coming today. Love goals in the early games. I don't want, Josh, why don't you bet unders? I look for over angles. If you don't see me betting on anything, hey, Josh, you didn't bet on the Calgary-Nashville game. Under. Hey, Josh, you didn't bet on the Detroit-Anaheim game. Under. Right? There's nothing exciting, really, about those games, and that's why we're stacking, right? Different goalies tonight. Vedmelka played the game of his life. Yeah, it was a silly game. Yes, it was Vedmelka.
So, ironically, as you say that, bet the unders, there was just a tweet sent out by Matt Larkin of the Hockey News. From Daily Faceoff. And he said the NHL's average save percentage dipped to 900 earlier this week. That would be the lowest mark in the last 29 years.
Huh, that's funny. But it's 910 kind of like a league average, 20, 910 will put you right now, I believe, somewhere in the 20th range in hockey.
Yeah, I guess. And he
follows
it up saying, why are goalies having a tougher time stopping the puck? And he writes a whole article about it. I'm fascinated to see.
JPC says unders are for the MLB season. Correct. You want to bet unders? Watch football players get off the field. Watch baseball players play great defense or pitch well. Watch basketball players throw up bricks. For hockey, unders, no fun. It's the least fun under betting experience that exists. That's why we don't stack unders. That's why under stacking isn't a thing. Think that would be fun? The under stacks? No.
Yeah, no.
No. All right, goals early. 1 7:00 game, then some 7:30, said some late games. One early game and then the 9:10. So a bunch of mountain time stuff. Let's leave it at that. Washington, Colorado over 6.5. Connor McMichael hype continues at -125. Pittsburgh, Columbus over 6.5. Fantilli for a point up to PP1. Centering line 2. And Vegas team total over 3.5. Utah not getting that goaltending again. +120. Friday in the books. Love the pumpers. Well done, gentlemen. Great work this week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 10 a.m. We can't do it without you. I'm Josh Ingles. He's Carlo Colaiacovo. Lots more coming up before you bet at noon. The Blitz coming up at 2:15. So much more content on Friday for a big week. Don't forget to get your Mike Tyson and Paul go the distance at +135. Got it at +135.
Okay, when you say go the distance, how many rounds are scheduled for this fight?
8 at 2 minutes.
8 rounds at 2 minutes?
Hey, there's Caleb Dewey telling me to grow up. Caleb Dewey, suck it. Woo! Let's go. We're going 2 minutes, though. But I've already seen it, right? Joe had a really good interview with GSP in this spot yesterday. And like they were nudging the fact, like there's a possibility that there's, yes, a secret handshake in which they just go the distance, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it. Tyson doesn't want to ruin his legacy losing to a guy that most people call a YouTuber. And Jake Paul doesn't want to ruin his reputation that he's built up to be this tough guy, having to lose to a 59-year-old Mike Tyson. So I'd have to agree with both of the monies that these guys are getting paid for this fight, that there is a little bit of a backdoor handshake agreement saying, okay, we can punch each other in the head a couple times. Let's make sure we don't knock each other out. And let's make sure we go the distance so that we can get our money's worth.
Fight is available. Sports Interaction. It's available anywhere you go.
If you had to pick a winner, who would you take?
Okay, so Logan Paul is -2 something.
Isn't it Jake Paul?
Oh, sorry, Jake Paul. Yeah. Sad that I'm happy that I don't know that, to be honest with you, right? What? We found out that at some books, 8 figures on Tyson. They can't get anybody to bet on Paul.
Wow. So there's no way Tyson.
But the line's not moving. But it's not like I'm not here saying, oh, the sharp money's here and the line's not moving this way. No. Yeah. It's like if I see a knockout, I'd be super surprised. But the longer it goes, the worse it's going to be for Mike Tyson. That's it. Luke Duke says it's got to be Tyson early or Logan Paul to win the distance. Those are your two choices. If you want some excitement, those are the two things. Fair. But don't forget to bet on hockey. Don't forget to bet on the Grey Cup. Don't forget to week 11 plays. Anthony Richardson, TD, plus 200 this week. You heard it here. What a great price. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that. Friday, we're out. Lead us out, pal.
Have a great weekend, folks. May the winners be yours.